joining me today is Oak Park resident Diana Dixon.
Yes.
Welcome, Diana.
Welcome.
And you've been, people watching this interview are going to go, especially if they've been at the library for a story time with their little kids, are going to go, wait a minute, I've seen her before. And that's because you've been behind the camera.
Absolutely.
And now we pulled you out and we're sticking you in front of the camera. And the reason we're doing that is because you have written some books and you have helped others.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what you've got here is, what I've got is just a couple things here. Quick, simple, self-publishing, and then a book of poetry, and then you have a manuscript service. So tell us how you got interested in writing.
How I got interested in writing is that I was a poet, and I used to go to a lot of the various different poetry venues, and I would write a poem before I would go on that day. You know, I would have some fresh new material.
Okay.
And so I started singing with a young man by the name of Yatafari Makunin. So I would do my poetry, then I would go on stage and I would sing a little jazz with him. So one day he came to me and he said, "Jazz Lady Day, why don't you write a book?" And I said, "You think I can write a book?" He said, "Yeah, why don't you go ahead and write a book?" I said, "Well, okay." So at first I didn't have any knowledge about, what does it take to write a book.
But you had some poems.
But I had a
You
lot
had been working on you just because you've always liked writing.
Well, I always liked writing because actually I started writing when I was 12 years old in elementary school, and I was in competitions in school, and actually normally most of the time I always won. I won, and I think I won because not only could I write, but I could also act. So whatever I wrote, I always acted it out on stage. So anyway, I didn't know very much about writing a book, but when he told me that, why don't you write a book, I just automatically believed him. And so I said, well, okay, there's not very much for me to write because I already got all of this information. So I started compiling that information together. And I did my research immediately, and I was able to complete this book here. I was able to complete it in a matter of 7 months. Now, it takes a short amount of time.
Now, this one came from the early 90s, I think.
Yeah, the early 90s, yeah. And it really doesn't take 7 months to do a book, but that was because I was a beginner. I didn't know anything about it, and I had compiled that book together.
So this was the learning process.
Absolutely. And I was afraid at first about writing books because I'm thinking, oh man, I had heard stories that you had to have like $13,000, $10,000 to write a book.
Right.
So that was like kind of gave me that apprehension about writing a book. So after doing research and finding a printer, and I found a printer that did perfect bound books. And I found out that those years ago, the price for 1,000 copies of books really wasn't that much. And I think at that time it was running for 1,000 books at 120 pages. It was running like $1,400 for the books. Well, I didn't have $1,400.
So $1.40.
It was $1,400, but about $1.40.
$1.40 a book.
Absolutely. I didn't have this money, so I'm like, well, how am I going to come up with this $1,400? And I was
and I'm sure everybody else or I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people who are sitting at home watching
where am I come up with this money from?
But they've got an idea. They've got either
they want to write a book,
a bunch of poems, or they've got some short stories, or maybe they've got a long story, a novel.
Absolutely. So I was trying to figure out where am I going to get the money from? So at that time, I had just bought a brand new dining room set, very beautiful dinette set. So I was real serious about I wanted to have this book done. And my husband didn't have a problem with it. I said, well, honey, I'm going to sell this dining room suit to try to get the money to buy my book. And I actually sold my dining room.
Did? Okay.
Look, I, like an idiot, I did sell the dining room suit for only $600. Okay, so I only had $600, and I wasn't savvy about negotiating how to get a little bit more money. So I sold a perfectly beautiful dining room set for $600, but I needed some more money. So my husband, he worked. I was a stay-at-home mom, and my husband was getting his income tax. So my husband put up the rest of the money for the book,
What a
and
guy.
and I was so happy about that. And I went and I had my books manufactured. They sent me 1,000 books, but then that was a problem because once I had all these books, you know, they came in boxes. I went and picked them up. I was very excited about it.
Now the kitchen's full of boxes of books.
Absolutely. And then I was afraid. I was afraid because now I didn't know what to do. So I was too afraid and embarrassed to be able to have the ability and the boldness to go out and
that's
sell
probably true of most people who are writers.
Right.
You don't realize that if you write it, you also have to market it, and you've got to sell it.
So what I did is that I sat on the books I sat on them for about 6 years. I never sold a book at all. A matter of fact, for the first couple of years, I just sat on it. I gave a couple of copies away, and I just was looking at, well, you know, I done put all this money in this book, and these books aren't doing anything. They're just sitting here collecting dust.
Right.
But later on, during the years, I got kind of desperate. I needed some money. And I said, you know what, it doesn't make sense for me to have these books here sitting here and I'm not doing anything. So I had a great idea. It was a great idea that came to me. I said, why don't I wear the title and a copy of my book all over my body? So at that time, I was much young. I was young and everything, and I used to have blue jeans. What they would give you when you get your books, they give you the covers. You get covers.
The cover art.
You get the covers, and you can use these covers as
the actual cover of the book.
And they had given me, they had actually given me at the time about 200 covers. Now these covers are used they can be used as postcards. They can be used as advertisement pieces where you can set them up and everything and let people know about your books and different things. Or you can use them also to send to publishers, like say for instance you want a publisher or somebody to pick up your book. So what I did, I started cutting them out. I started stapling them on the back of my jackets. I would staple the covers on my pants legs. I started making hats. I would cut the books up and I would make hats. And I guess what? I got a lot of attention.
I bet you did.
I got an absolutely lot of attention. So
I bet you did.
Absolutely. So I started going and doing door to door. And I started going door to door. And
you
people
walking down the street?
Oh my God, I would look like a walking billboard, you know, because I didn't know anybody.
You went door to door selling books?
Absolutely. I went door to door. I went business to business. I would go walking down the street. But the thing about it is because I wore all these signs, people was like, oh my God, what's going on? And they saw this, these words here. Oh my God, what is she?
Love,
what
sex,
is
and all
that? You know what I'm saying? So I was getting a lot of attention. And so that gave me the opportunity to be able to open up my mouth. So when someone came up and what are you doing with all of that? Then I said, hello, my name is Diane Dixon, and I'm the author of Love, Sex, and All That Mess. Would you be interested in buying one of my books? And then at that time, I would memorize some of the pieces in there, and I would recite it, and people would be interested in buying the book from there. So that gave me a way to be able to have a reason to open my mouth up and sell the book.
Now that's an interesting marketing. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say they've done marketing like that.
Absolutely, and that's how I had did it for years. And then also one time I had got, you put what is this board that you have in front of you?
It's like a sandwich board?
Oh my God. One time I had a sandwich board. So I put a sandwich board on and I had the title. I walked up and down the street. Starting out,
What'd your neighbors think?
I'm pretty sure they didn't really know what to think, but what I was doing, I was making money. So,
you started selling books.
I started selling books and I started making money. And the thing that prompted me to doing that is because when I did start out, I tried to do consignment. And I started doing consignment in the city of Detroit and also in Birmingham. So I found out that when I did consignment, most of the people wanted like 40 or 50% for the book. And so I was like, this doesn't make much sense to me because I have this book. I'm not even making any money off of it. I mean, okay, I sell a book and I get $5, but my books were sitting on the shelf. What I didn't realize is that when you put your book in a store on consignment, it's not the store's responsibility to market and promote you. So if you're not doing additional marketing and promoting, your book will either stay on the shelf. Yeah, absolutely. So what was happening is that the book was staying on the shelf. Books weren't moving. I was like, what sense is this? So that's why I launched a campaign with my own self to get out here and become a walking billboard. And that's exactly what I did.
And one of the books you've got here is a quick, simple self-publishing text, and that's obviously some of what we're talking about here is going to be in these books.
Absolutely. And one reason also that why I did the self-publishing book is because I didn't want people to make a lot of the mistakes that I made.
Right.
And one of the most important,
so you're just giving people advice. Here's what I did. Here's what I did wrong. Here's what I did right.
Absolutely.
Maybe you can learn from it.
And I wanted to make sure that they knew that the most important thing about a book is that you have to be concerned about the title. Now, I had a lot of negative responses about my title. It just gave me quite a few headaches. Although I sold books, I could have sold more books and my sales could have been quadrupled had I been more selective of a title that was comfortable for people. Because this is not a sex book, but it's a very clean book. But because of the title, people had the wrong ideal about the book. And because it had the wrong ideal about the book, a lot of people rejected the title. And I would have to do so much talking at times to convince people, to even open up the book and look at it. So what I try to encourage people is to think about your title and think about your audience. Is your title comfortable enough? In terms of cover design, I had a kind of good cover design, because the cover design or whatever, it was just out there at you. But the most important thing is color design. What does your book look like? Is it attractive enough to attract someone to even want to pick it up, open it up, and look at it? And so these are some very important things. So when I wrote Quick, Simple Self-Publishing Tips, deliberately, I did the cover to where the cover is not a good cover, but it was deliberately done because that book was supposed to be used in a classroom setting to show a person what's wrong and what can be done in order to correct it and make it look much better, make it more appealing. Think about the color and different things like that. And what is it that people are attracted to? And we as individuals and everything, we are attracted to beautiful things.
And you have a manuscript service and you sell your service to people who want to
write books,
get something published, or just have an idea and want to be able to work their way through it. And we'll put your phone number and your email address up on the screen now, so people can contact you. And let's hope that they do. Do you have? You should talk about, just real quickly, we've got about 30 seconds left. Talk about other forms.
Another thing that I would like to talk about quickly is that, although people have an idea for a book, one thing that I like to encourage people and let them know is that a book can be a multiple number of products. And from a book, you can do a book, you can do a screenwrite, you can do a screenplay. The book can, be developed into a music score or whatever. It can end up coming and turning into super cartoon characters, a comic book. So there's so many other products and areas where you can derive an income from, just from that one ideal of writing a book. So a book can be everything. It can be a T-shirt. It can be maybe the title of one of your chapters on a hat. So there's so many different products that a book can do, and it can also springboard your career into a speaker's career. That's another thing that I did. I developed from this Love, Sex, and All That Mess. I also developed another project, which I'm working on a project right now of a book called Spiritual Awareness, where I took the book, made a textbook, a workbook, an instructor's manual, and also presentation pieces to be able to go with the book. So you can put your presentation and your transparencies on a slide and do a workshop, seminar type of situations.
Well, I hope whoever's watching this, I hope this maybe has sparked interest in at least one person out there, and they may be inspired to get in contact with Oak Park resident Diana Dixon. Thank you, Diana.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for
for
sharing your experiences with us today and our audience. And thank you for tuning in. And don't go away, because there is more good stuff coming up right after this.
Stand on end.